With phones these days, we don't have that excitement anymore. Launch cycles have been getting faster and faster, while improvements, they've kind of been getting slower and slower. These days, every new phone launch is pretty much the same. It's a few percent here and there, slightly improved cameras, a slight reduction in charging times, slightly faster processors. Hell, sometimes you even get the same damn SoCs. The most exciting thing happening with smartphones today is the SIM slot being oh, wait, that's not it. That sucks. The most exciting development for smartphones has got to be the foldable display. Your regular phone, when you want it, can just become a tablet. Seems amazing, right? Like with every amazing idea in history, thinking it and implementing it are two very different things. Typically, how this goes is, as you start moving into implementation, you run into issues, and with every new iteration, you keep fixing said issues. So how has Xiaomi fared with their second generation foldable, the Mix Fold 2? Well, I've used this phone as my primary for a good 2 to 3 weeks now, and here's your answer. I mean, not here. I'm gonna have to make you sit through an entire video for this. I'm sorry, you are gonna have to listen to me for a little bit more before we arrive at that part. Hey guys, Ash here from C4eTech, and let's get started. So guys, let's get this straight. Let's forget about the Mix Fold 2 for a moment. Now this is how I see foldables overall. A foldable is kind of like an all-rounder in cricket. To make it to a team, you need to be someone who can get selected as just a pure batsman, while also being able to make the team as a bowler. And that's kind of how this works. Would you be okay to buy this as just a phone? Now, would you be okay to buy it as just a tablet? To be perfectly honest, there is no device on the market today that checks both these boxes perfectly. The technology, it's just not there yet. But how close have we gotten? Now that's what I look at when I'm reviewing a foldable. So to begin with, let's look at the Mix Fold 2 as a smartphone. The moment you pick it up, you know you're dealing with something heavy. Now the iPhone 14 Pro Max is a heavy phone by itself, but this is 10% heavier than that. So it's not absurdly heavy or anything, but its weight that's definitely noticeable, especially when it's in your pocket. From a size perspective, now since I already brought up the iPhone, it's about as tall as the 14 Pro Max. It's much narrower, so in a way it's actually more comfortable to hold in hand, but it also happens to be way thicker by about say 40%. It does feel very premium though. We've got metal all around to the sides, the hinge. We've got short UTG glass to the back and Gorilla Glass Victus covering the display. So it's a premium build overall. Talking about the display, this is definitely one of the highlights of the Mix Fold 2. Guys, typically with foldables, the outer display, the cover display, it's very narrow. For example, with the most popular foldable today, arguably the Z Fold 4, it's got a 6.2-inch panel to the front, but that's a 23.1:9 aspect ratio. On the other hand, the Mix Fold 2 has a larger panel at 6.56 inches, but it also happens to be a 21:9 panel, the same aspect ratio that Sony's been using on their flagships for a long time. While it's not the 19.5:9 that we are used to with most phones, it's still wide enough that things don't feel very cramped. When I was typing on this, for example, I felt like I was getting used to a new phone. The same kind of feel that I have every time I pick up a, say, Sony phone. Sure, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm not constantly feeling as if the experience being compromised. It's more of a, I'm getting used to something new kind of vibe. That's the kind of feel you get when you start using the Mix Fold 2. Now, if you're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of it, this is a Full HD Plus AMOLED panel with a 120Hz refresh. It's a very smooth panel, very responsive. The support for HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision, and it can hit a peak brightness of 1300 nits. So an excellent panel overall. Of course, with a foldable, you're not gonna really be consuming media on this cover display, but if you wanted to, I'm just saying it's not a bad experience at all. Now, underneath this panel, you don't really find a fingerprint scanner since the fingerprint scanner is built into the power button to the side. While I'm not particularly a fan of side-mounted fingerprint scanners, with this form factor, it kind of makes sense. The other biometric option is face unlock via the selfie camera that you find in this hole punch up top. This is a 20 megapixel shooter paired with an f2.4 lens. It's nothing special, there's nothing to really write home about here. Gets the job done, definitely. There's a decent amount of detail in the images, the dynamic range is also pretty good. But here's where the fold part of this phone kicks in, because you don't actually have to use the selfie camera to shoot selfies, you could use the rear camera array. So for this, with the screen unfolded, tap the swap camera button, and instead of the camera swapping, the interface does. And as you can see, the selfies are much better. There's better blurring of the background, a lot more detail, better dynamic range. Now, instead of wanting to shoot selfies, if you just wanted to show the subject what you're shooting, how you're framing them, then tap this icon to the top, and now the outer display, it just shows you what's on the viewfinder. And there are times where this could be really useful. Now, since we touched upon the rear cameras, let's actually talk about them. You see this nice little Leica branding here? Yeah, Xiaomi's once again worked with Leica on this one, so you get two Leica shooting modes to choose from. You have Leica Vibrant and Leica Authentic. The Authentic is more natural colors, while Leica Vibrant, which is on by default, is gonna give you the more saturated, more social media friendly look. The primary camera here, it's a Sony IMX766, the same sensor we've been seeing on the likes of the Find X5 Pro. It's a 50 megapixel 1x5.6 inch sensor. By default, it does 4:1 binning so that you end up with 12.5 megapixel photos. Images, as you can see, turned out really good. Very well detailed with excellent colors. Now, is this flagship level? As in, is this going to be competing with your iPhone 14 Pros and S22 Ultras? It's a toughie. I'd have to say not really. I'd rate it just a little below. But still, as you can see, even under low light, this sensor had no issues capturing great images. Pretty low on the noise. I'd say the camera performance of this phone is excellent, just a rung below top tier flagships. The secondary is an ultra wide. This is the 13 megapixel OmniVision sensor, a pretty small sensor, 1 by 3.06 inches. It's paired with a 15mm f2.4 ultra wide lens. Now the third camera, it's an 8 megapixel sensor paired with a telephoto lens that offers 2x optical zoom. GSM Readiness says this could be the 12 megapixel Sony IMX663 that Xiaomi crops to 8 megapixels from. Either ways, it does get the job done. But again, if you are looking at this phone, as a flagship, then the 2x telephoto is kind of sort of a negative. 2x at best these days, you use it for portraits, you don't really use it for optical zoom. Again, portraits, very good on this phone, but from a telephoto perspective, the reach, the room you get to play with, it's not a lot. Now, before we are done with the cameras, as far as video goes, you can shoot up to 8K, 24 FPS. Though most of the time that I spent with this phone, I ended up shooting 4K 60, since honestly, I love the extra frames and the results were really impressive. Now, I do know we haven't spoken about performance and battery, and I will get to it, but before that, let's take another look at the Mix Fold 2, but this time as a tablet. Now, as a tablet, I don't know how a lot of people don't talk about this. Now, if you look at the Z Fold 4, that is a camera on the inside, a UDC, under-display camera. These aren't great. I've used under-display cameras on some phones and like I said, they are not great at all. Yes, technology is improving. It's cool to have an invisible camera buried under the display, a hidden camera. But images coming out of these UDCs, the under-display selfie cameras, they suck. But when you want to use something as a tablet in today's day and age, especially when your primary SIM card is in it, you're going to have to take your video calls, your meets, your Zoom calls. You need to have a device that's capable of handling all that. As a tablet, the Mix Fold 2 is not capable of handling your video calls because it doesn't have a selfie camera on the inside. Because if there's a WhatsApp call you want to get on, you can only do that in the phone mode. You can't do that when you're using the Mix Fold 2 unfolded. And this, in my humble opinion, is the biggest failing for the Mix Fold 2 as a tablet. Now moving on past that, as a tablet, the Fold 2, it's amazing to use. Now remember what I said from a build perspective when using this as a phone? Now take all that and just flip the script. Just flip it. What you're seeing here is an iPad mini, arguably the best compact tablet available today. Compared to the iPad mini, the Mix Fold 2 is about 10% lighter and 15% slimmer. Now unlike other foldables, outside of the camera bump, both these sides are equally thick, so it feels much more balanced in hand. Also, the crease in between, it's amongst the least noticeable creases I've come across on a foldable. Yes, if you do put your finger over it, you can feel it, but no, with day-to-day use, this isn't something I obsessed about. This isn't something I kept seeing when I was using the Mix Fold 2 to watch a video or play a game. It was never a distraction, didn't really take away from my user experience. Now the display here, this is again a OLED panel with LTPO technology, 120Hz refresh with a peak brightness of 1300 nits alongside support for HDR10+ and Dolby Vision. The fact that it's almost a square, not really. If we were being technical, it's 10 point change by 9. But the fact that it is this aspect ratio means when you're watching videos, a lot of that screen real estate is going to be lost to black bars. But with older TV content, like the 4:3 aspect ratio stuff, this is perfect for it. Beat it up here, I want to point out Xiaomi does include a case with it. Not exactly a case, more like a hardback cover. And it does come with a kickstand. So being able to prop this thing up in bed, whether it was when I was using it to scroll through Reddit or when I was watching a video, I found it very useful. So now, as a tablet, this display, it's a positive if you're looking at it from a point of how it feels to browse on it, if you want to, say, remotely access your PC, or if you want to play retro games on it, if you want to read a book. But if you're going to want to watch a movie, it's not going to give you the same experience a regular tablet does due to that aspect ratio. While talking about movies, let's also take the time out to talk about a few other sundries. There are stereo speakers that fire out of both sides. They sound really good for a phone. When compared to tablets, they're average. They're maybe a little above average. I've come across louder and punchier speakers on standalone flagship tablets. Where the Mix Fold 2 has a huge advantage over pretty much any other tablet in the market is with the cameras. The optics, while a rung below top-tier flagships, they are much better than anything you'd find on any tablet in the market today. But then again, the lack of a selfie camera kind of muddles the entire optics stuff. From a performance perspective, the Mix Fold 2 is powered by a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chip, which is paired with 12 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM, 256 of 512 gigs, or even 1 terabyte of fast UFS 3.1 storage. So top-notch performance regardless of if you're looking at it as a phone or a tablet. But then again, the amount of space here does limit sustained performance. CPU throttle test numbers were promising, with the Mix Fold 2 retaining 91% of its peak performance even after being pushed for 15 minutes straight. But with GPU, 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme failed after just a couple of loops due to heating issues. So there is some kind of throttling going on. But that said, I never felt the phone get actually hot with regular use or even when I was running games for a while. The performance is definitely great, but if you're just looking for a gaming phone per se, there are definitely better and cheaper options available. Now, from a battery perspective, this one sports a 4500 mAh battery on the inside. A couple of days I did try using it just as a phone without ever unfolding it. I hated the experience because when you have a device like this, you just want to keep folding and unfolding that display. It's just fun to do it. But then again, in the interest of science, in the interest of testing it, I did continue to use it as just a phone for a couple of days. And when I did, the battery life was exceptional. I did end each of these days of moderate use with about 40% left in the tank. Now, on days I used the Mix Fold 2 as a tablet, predominantly as a tablet, those numbers did go down to about 20%. Even then, it was good enough to get me through a day. While definitely a full-fledged tablet would give you better numbers, it wasn't bad at all. And on top of that, Xiaomi does include a 67-watt charger in the box, which lets you go from 0 to 100 in just 40 minutes. That's pretty sweet. So now to answer the questions that we had at the start, would I buy the Mix Fold 2 as just a phone? Definitely not. Hell, if you're going to spend top dollar on buying a phone, there are phones that are going to be easier on your hand, feel nicer, provide you higher resolution displays, camera performance a notch above, IP68 ratings, and wireless charging support, both of which the Mix Fold 2 lacks, with probably a lower price tag. Now, from a tablet perspective, would I buy this as just a tablet? The answer is still no, but it's not a resounding no. I'd say they're almost there. Yes, the aspect ratio is not great for watching movies, but like I said, for older TV shows, for gaming, especially retro gaming, for browsing the web, for reading books, it's pretty good. If the Mix Fold 2 only had a selfie camera, whether it was in the form of a under-display camera or a punch hole, it would have been a great little lightweight tablet. But it doesn't, which means as a tablet, it's got that one little box it doesn't check. So where does that leave us? As a foldable, I think overall as a hybrid device that can double as both a phone and a tablet, Xiaomi's done really well. And the pricing, yes, it's a very expensive phone, but compared to the price at which other foldables are launching, it's pretty competitive. What you're seeing on screen right now is the official Chinese pricing, and as of now, it's only available in China. If you don't mind paying a little bit more and want to import it, hell, you can check out our video sponsor, 28mobile.com. If there's any phone you like that's not available in your market, do check out 28mobile.com. They offer a wide variety of phones. They're very professional, ship quick, and offer awesome support. I've been dealing with them for years, way before they became a sponsor on the channel. So go ahead, check out 28mobile.com using the link in the description below. And with that said, we're at the end of this review video. This has kind of been my experience with the Mix Fold 2. I really loved the time I spent with it. Now, at the start of this video, if you remember, I said I've spent 3 weeks with it. I didn't say I have been spending 3 weeks with it because this isn't the last phone I was using. But I have been popping my SIM on and off into it. So I went on, used the iPhone for a bit, came back to this. I went on, used the Moto H30 Fusion for a bit. I came back to this. I really like this phone. I still have everything set up. I've not factory wiped it because I plan on coming back to this phone from time to time. It's been a very fun experience using it. If you can afford buying flagship phones and you're bored with what you've been seeing on the market, this should definitely be a great buy for you. That is who I would recommend the Mix Fold to. Anyways, I guess that's pretty much it for this video. What do you feel about the video? What do you feel about the Mix Fold 2? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, you know what to do. If you hated it, I'm pretty sure you know what to do. If you've not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed and wanna not miss my content, go ahead, turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. So thanks a lot for your time. Thanks for watching. Until next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4E Tech, and I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.